The signal pierced through the cosmic void like a scream in the night. It arrived at Earth's Distant Signal Observatory at 0347 Universal Time, and within minutes, every communications array on the planet was focused on decoding its message. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her screen, her coffee growing cold in her trembling hand. The translation algorithm had finished its work, and the words glowing before her were unmistakable. "Help us! They are coming! We cannot fight! Please, anyone, help us!" The message repeated in a loop, growing weaker with each transmission. Attached to it were coordinates, a star system designation, and something that made Sarah's blood run cold. A countdown. They had 72 hours. Within the hour, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered in the holographic chamber, their faces reflecting the same mixture of fear and uncertainty. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it was a cry for help. Admiral Marcus Webb stood before the council, his weathered face grave. He had spent 40 years in the Space Defense Force, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The signal originates from the Kepler 442 system, approximately 1,200 light-years from Earth. The message is genuine. We've verified the quantum signatures. Someone out there is dying, and they're asking us to save them. A councilwoman from the Asian Alliance raised her hand. "Admiral, with all respect, how can we possibly respond? Even our fastest ships would take decades to reach that system. This could be a trap, or worse, a test we're not ready for." Marcus nodded slowly. "Under normal circumstances, you'd be right. But 6 months ago, the Vanguard project completed its final trials. We have a ship capable of reaching that system in 60 hours using the prototype jump drive. The Council classified this information, but given the circumstances, I believe transparency is necessary." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The Vanguard was a legend, a rumor whispered about in military circles. The idea that humanity had developed faster-than-light travel without public knowledge was staggering. The Secretary General, an elderly man from the European Federation, stood slowly. "If we send the Vanguard, what are we sending it into? We know nothing about this threat, nothing about the species calling for help. We could be starting an interstellar war we cannot win. We could also be letting an entire civilization die when we had the power to help," Marcus replied quietly. "The message specifically mentions Deathworlders in one of its data packets. Our linguistics team believes they're calling for help from species that evolved on harsh, dangerous planets. Earth qualifies. They're not asking for technology or weapons. They're asking for fighters." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her tablet displaying streams of data. "There's more. The message contains telemetry data showing massive energy signatures approaching their world. The pattern matches nothing in our theoretical databases, but the scale is enormous. Dozens of vessels, each the size of a small moon. Whatever is attacking them, they're facing an extinction-level threat." The council debated for 3 hours. Every argument for caution was met with the simple, undeniable truth. Someone was dying, and they had asked specifically for Earth's help. In the end, the vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity would answer the call. The Vanguard launched from the hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean 36 hours after the signal arrived. It was a warship unlike anything humanity had ever built, incorporating every lesson learned from centuries of warfare and every advancement in science. Its hull was composed of reactive armor that could shift and adapt to threats. Its weapons systems ranged from kinetic artillery to experimental energy weapons, but its greatest asset was its crew. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching Earth shrink behind them as the jump drive powered up. She was 38, a veteran of the Mars Rebellion and the Titan conflicts. Her crew of 200 was the best humanity could offer. Soldiers who had survived impossible odds, engineers who could build weapons from asteroid debris, doctors who had performed surgery in zero gravity during firefights. Captain, jump drive at 90%, called out Lieutenant Commander James Park from the engineering station. All systems nominal. We'll be in range for the first jump in 10 minutes. Elena nodded, her eyes scanning the crew. They all knew this was a one-way ticket into the unknown. They might arrive to find everyone already dead. They might face an enemy so powerful that their sacrifice would be meaningless, but not one person had hesitated when asked to volunteer. "Open a channel, all hands," Elena ordered. The ship's intercom crackled to life. "This is the captain. In a few minutes, we're going to do something no human has ever done. We're going to cross 1,200 light years in the blink of an eye, and we're going to arrive in a war zone. We don't know who we're saving. We don't know who we're fighting. What we do know is that someone out there is scared and dying, and they believe we can help. Every one of you chose to be here. Every one of you represents the best of humanity. Let's show the universe what Earth is made of." The crew responded with a roar of approval that echoed through every deck. Elena felt the familiar calm settle over her, the same feeling she got before every battle. Fear transformed into focus. Doubt became determination. Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark. The universe folded. For a single eternal instant, Elena experienced everything and nothing. She saw the birth and death of stars, felt the weight of galaxies, understood the infinite complexity of existence. Then reality snapped back into place, and they were somewhere else. The Kepler 442 system materialized around them. A yellow star burned in the distance, and 4 planets orbited in graceful arcs. The third planet, their destination, was a jewel of blue and green hanging in the void. It would have been beautiful if not for the fleet surrounding it. "Jesus Christ," whispered Park, staring at the tactical display. "Sensors are reading 78 vessels in orbital positions. They're massive, Captain. Each one is at least 30 kilometers long." The alien ships were dark and angular, their surfaces covered in sharp protrusions that reminded Elena of deep-sea predators. They had formed a blockade around the planet, and even from this distance, she could see weapons fire raining down on the surface. Cities burned. Atmosphere vented into space from massive wounds in the planet's protective shell. "Scan for the signal source," Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the horror before her. "Find out who called for help." The communications officer, a young woman named Amy Liu, worked frantically at her console. "I've got it, Captain. There's a facility on the northern continent underground. It's heavily shielded, still transmitting. They're trying to reach us now." "Put them through." The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. Elena had to suppress her gasp. The being looked almost human, but with subtle differences. Larger eyes, skin that shimmered with a faint blue undertone, and delicate features that suggested a world much gentler than Earth. The alien was clearly exhausted, with injuries visible on its face and upper body. You came," the alien said in perfect English, its voice filled with disbelief and desperate hope. "We didn't think anyone would answer. I am Counselor Vane of the Krenai Collective." "You're from Earth?" "Captain Elena Rodriguez, United Earth Space Defense Force. We received your distress call." "What's your situation, Counselor?" Vane's expression crumbled, years of terror and suffering visible in that single moment. "The Devourers found us 3 cycles ago. We're a peaceful people, Captain. We have no weapons, no warriors. We thought we were safe in our corner of the galaxy. We were wrong. They've destroyed our orbital platforms, our cities, our entire defensive network. We sent the call hoping someone, anyone, would have the courage to face them. They're stripping our world, taking everything. In hours, there will be nothing left." Elena studied the tactical display. 1 human warship against 78 alien vessels, each potentially armed with weapons beyond anything Earth had ever conceived. The odds were absurd. It was suicide. But she'd faced impossible odds before. How many of your people are still alive? 7 million, scattered in underground shelters across the planet. They're burning through our defenses level by level. By tomorrow, they'll reach the deepest shelters. Are these devourers machines or biological? Both. They're a hybrid species, cybernetically enhanced. They feel no mercy, no fear. They exist only to consume and expand. We researched your species after sending the call, Captain. Your planet is classified as a Class 4 death world, one of the most hostile environments known to support intelligent life. Your people evolved fighting every day to survive. That's why we called. We hoped Deathworlders would know how to fight when everything seems lost. Elena smiled, and there was nothing friendly in that expression. Counselor, I need you to keep your people safe for the next 6 hours. Can you do that? We'll try. But, Captain, you cannot face this fleet alone. It's madness. Maybe, Elena agreed. But madness is something humans excel at. Rodriguez out. She turned to her bridge crew, seeing the same fierce determination reflected in every face. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely insane for even considering what they were about to do. But they were also humans, descendants of the apes that had climbed down from the trees and decided to take over an entire planet. All hands, battle stations. Lieutenant Park, I need every weapon system online and ready. Navigation, plot me intercept courses for the nearest Devourer vessels. Tactical, identify their command ship. Communications, broadcast a message on all frequencies, human and otherwise. Amy looked up in surprise. What's the message, Captain? Elena's smile widened. Tell them that Earth has arrived and we're really not happy about what they've been doing to our new friends, then play something appropriate over every speaker in this ship. Captain? I'm thinking Wagner. Ride of the Valkyries should set the right mood. The crew stared at her for a moment, then began to laugh. It was the laughter of people who had looked at death and decided to thumb their noses at it. The vanguard came alive with the sound of human voices, raised in defiant joy as they charged toward impossible odds. The closest Devourer vessel detected them immediately. It was massive, a construct of dark metal and pulsing organic tissue, with weapons ports that could swallow the vanguard whole. It turned ponderous to face this tiny intruder, and Elena could imagine the confusion of its crew. One small ship approaching a fleet of titans. Weapons range in 30 seconds, called out the tactical officer. They're charging some kind of energy weapon. Big signature, Captain. Whatever it is, it's powerful. Let them fire first, Elena ordered calmly. I want to see what we're dealing with. Shields to maximum, armor to adaptive configuration. The Devourer fired. A beam of concentrated energy lanced across space, hitting the vanguard with enough force to vaporize a small asteroid. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring, but the shields held and the armor absorbed what penetrated. Damage report. Shields down to 67%. Hull integrity at 92%. That was their primary weapon, Captain. If they hit us 3 more times like that, we're done. Elena nodded slowly. Good to know. Now let's show them what a Deathworlder ship can do. Fire everything. The vanguard unleashed hell. Kinetic rounds accelerated to significant fractions of light speed hammered into the Devourer's hull. Missiles with smart AI systems weaved through defensive fire to strike weak points. Experimental plasma weapons carved glowing furrows across its surface. And then the railgun, humanity's masterpiece of destructive engineering, charged and fired a tungsten rod at velocities that approached relativistic speeds. The rod punched through the Devourer vessel like paper, its kinetic energy so immense that matter itself couldn't withstand it. The alien ship's midsection simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact. What remained broke apart in slow motion, atmosphere and bodies spilling into the void. The bridge crew of the Vanguard erupted in cheers. They had just killed something 30 times their size with one shot. But Elena's expression remained focused. That's one down. 77 to go. All ships are converging on our position. Time to show them why you don't mess with a Deathworld's children. Evasive pattern Delta, rotate weapons, and keep firing. We're going to dance with devils today. As the Vanguard dove into the enemy fleet, Elena whispered a prayer to any gods listening. They had come to save a dying world, outnumbered and outgunned. But they were human, and humans had never learned the meaning of the word impossible. They were about to teach the universe that lesson the hard way. The Vanguard twisted through space like a dancer in a storm, defying every law of physics that should have made such maneuvers impossible. The ship's experimental inertial dampeners worked overtime, protecting the crew from G-forces that would have turned them into paste against the walls. Elena gripped her command chair, watching the tactical display light up with incoming fire from all directions. "Target the weapon emplacements on the nearest ship, then punch through to the next one," she ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Don't let them establish a firing pattern. Stay unpredictable." The Vanguard's weapons blazed continuously, chewing through armor and sending Devourer vessels reeling. But for every hit they landed, a dozen enemy shots hammered their shields. Warning lights flickered across every console on the bridge. "Shields at 40%, Park called out, his fingers flying over his controls. "Port armor is compromised on decks 7 through 9. I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems, but Captain, we can't take this kind of punishment indefinitely." Elena knew he was right. They had destroyed 3 Devourer vessels, crippled 5 more, but the enemy was adapting. Their shots were getting more accurate, their formations tighter. The Vanguard was fast and deadly, but it was still one ship against a fleet. "Open a channel to Counselor Vane," Elena said. "I need information about their planet." The alien's face appeared on screen, hope warring with terror in his expression. "Captain, you're destroying them. We can see the battle from here. Your ship is incredible, but there are so many of them." "I need you to focus, Counselor. Tell me about your oceans. How deep are they? What's the composition?" Vane blinked in confusion. "Our oceans? They're deep, covering 60% of our surface. Some trenches reach 15 kilometers. The water is similar to Earth's, high salt content, pressure increases with depth." "Why does this matter?" A slow smile spread across Elena's face. "Because humans evolved on a death world, and we learned to use every part of it. I need your people to stay underground and away from any coastal areas for the next hour. Can you do that?" "Yes, but Captain, what are you planning?" "Something crazy. Rodriguez out." She turned to her navigation officer. "Take us down into atmosphere trajectory toward the deepest ocean you can find. Maximum speed." The officer's eyes widened. "Captain, if we enter atmosphere at combat speeds, the friction will cook us alive. And leading that many enemy ships down with us will be exactly the point. Trust me. Park, I need you to prepare the jump drive for a micro jump. 2 kilometers straight down into the ocean, on my mark." Park stared at her like she had lost her mind. "Captain, jumping through an atmosphere into water at those coordinates, we could materialize inside solid rock. The mathematics alone are nearly impossible." "Nearly impossible is better than completely impossible, which is what we're facing up here. Do it." The Vanguard dove toward the planet, atmospheric flames licking at its hull as it screamed downward at speeds that should have torn it apart. Behind it, 40 Devourer vessels followed, their weapons lighting up the sky. The Kree on the surface watched in awe and terror as the human ship led a fleet of death straight toward their world. "Approaching ocean surface," the pilot announced. "Impact in 20 seconds. All hands, brace for impact and immediate jump. This is going to be rough." The Vanguard hit the water like a meteor, sending a plume hundreds of meters into the sky. The force would have shattered any normal vessel, but the ship's adaptive armor absorbed the impact, reshaping itself to cut through the water like a submarine. Enemy fire followed them down, superheating the ocean and creating massive steam explosions. Jump! Now! Reality stuttered. The Vanguard materialized 2 kilometers below the surface in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean. The enemy fleet, unable to stop their momentum, slammed into the water at full speed. The Devourer vessels were built for space, their hulls designed to withstand the vacuum and radiation of the void. But they were never meant to hit an ocean at combat speeds. The water's resistance was devastating. Ships crumpled, their hulls breaching. Those that survived the impact found themselves in an alien environment, their sensors blind, their weapons useless, their massive engines fighting against the crushing pressure and thick resistance of water. "Surface now, full weapons hot," Elena ordered. "Let's show them what an angry Deathworlder can do." The Vanguard rocketed upward, breaking the surface in a geyser of water and foam. The ocean around them churned with disabled Devourer vessels, some sinking, others trying desperately to reach space. The human ship didn't give them the chance. At point-blank range, the Vanguard's weapons tore through the crippled enemy ships like a shark through wounded prey. 17 vessels destroyed, 9 more critically damaged, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking with disbelief. "The remaining ships are retreating to high orbit." Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before the reality of their situation set in. They had dealt a devastating blow, but more than 50 enemy ships remained, and the Vanguard was running on fumes. "Status report. All systems." Park's voice was grim. "Shields are at 12% and failing. We've got hull breaches on 6 decks, the jump drive needs at least 4 hours to recharge, and ammunition is down to 30%. Captain, we hurt them, but we can't survive another engagement like that." Elena nodded slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. They had proven that Earth's warriors could fight, but the math was brutal. Unless something changed, they would die here, and the Kreni would die with them. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Devourer fleet," Amy announced. "They're demanding our surrender." "Put them through." "Let's see who we're really fighting." The screen filled with an alien face that was the stuff of nightmares. Cybernetic implants covered half its skull, glowing with cold light. Multiple eyes, some biological and some mechanical, stared out with disturbing intelligence. Its mouth was a mass of mechanical mandibles surrounding organic teeth. "Human vessel," the creature said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping on metal. "You have proven yourselves capable warriors. The collective offers you terms. Surrender. Provide us with your technology and biological samples, and we will allow your species to survive as a client race. Refuse, and we will track your planet and consume it as we are consuming this world." Elena met those cold eyes without flinching. "I'm Captain Elena Rodriguez of Earth, and I've got a counteroffer for you. Leave this system immediately, return to whatever hole you crawled out of, and maybe we won't hunt you across the galaxy for what you've done here." The Devourer actually laughed, a harsh, grinding sound. "You command 1 damaged ship against our fleet. You have no tactical advantage, no possibility of victory. You are insects pretending to be predators." "We're humans," Elena replied coldly. "We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We fought diseases that could wipe out millions. We survived ice ages and volcanic winters. We built civilizations in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. We split the atom and touched the stars. And we never, ever surrendered to bullies. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave, or we're going to make you wish you had." Brave words from the dead. "We will enjoy dissecting your corpse to understand what made you so foolishly confident." The transmission cut off. Elena turned to her crew, seeing the same defiant fire in every face. They were beaten, broken, and running on nothing but courage and spite. It was the most human thing in the universe. "Captain, multiple jump signatures detected," Amy suddenly announced, her voice rising with excitement. "They're not Devourer profiles. They're... Oh my God, Captain, they're human!" The space around Kepler 442 rippled, and ships began to appear. Not just one or two, but dozens. Cargo haulers with weapons bolted to their hulls, mining vessels carrying improvised railguns, colony ships transformed into carriers, and at their head, emerging from jump space like an avenging angel, was the UESS Indomitable, Earth's newest battleship. Admiral Marcus Webb's face appeared on the screen, his weathered features split by a fierce grin. Captain Rodriguez, the Council decided that one ship wasn't enough to represent humanity's response to a distress call, so we brought everyone who could make jump speed in 48 hours. Hope you saved some of the fight for us. Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but her voice remained steady. Admiral, you have perfect timing. We've softened them up for you. So we heard. Every military frequency in Earth space has been broadcasting your battle. The whole planet is watching, Captain. You've shown the universe who we are. Now let's finish what you started. The newly arrived fleet spread out, surrounding the remaining Devourer vessels. These weren't sleek warships or advanced alien technology. They were crude, retrofitted, held together with human ingenuity and sheer determination, but there were hundreds of them, and every single one was crewed by people who had volunteered to cross the galaxy to help strangers. The Devourer commander appeared again, and for the first time, Elena saw something like uncertainty in those mechanical eyes. What is this? Your planet sent an entire fleet? Not just a fleet, Marcus answered. You threatened peaceful people who asked us for help. You made the mistake of thinking one ship was all Earth would send. Let me educate you about humans. We're pack animals, and when you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. And when someone asks us for help, we bring everyone. You cannot possibly field enough firepower to— We're not going to destroy you, Marcus interrupted. That would be too quick. Instead, we're going to disable every single one of your ships, rescue everyone you've taken from the Kree, and then we're going to mark this system as under Earth's protection. You're going to limp home and tell your collective that humans don't tolerate slavers, raiders, or murderers, and if you ever threaten a peaceful species again, we'll find you. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Kree had ever witnessed. The human fleet moved with chaotic precision, ships darting in and out of formation, using tactics that seemed to defy military logic. They rammed damaged ships into enemy vessels, detonated ammunition stockpiles at close range, and used their own damaged ships as weapons when necessary. It was brutal, unforgiving, and utterly ruthless, but it was also controlled. True to Marcus's word, they aimed for engines and weapons, leaving command sections intact. They carved through the Devourer fleet like a pack of wolves, bringing down much larger prey, working together with a unity born of shared purpose. On the surface of the Kree homeworld, Counselor Vane watched through his facility's sensors, tears streaming down his face. His people were saved. The impossible had happened. The Deathworlders had come, and they had brought their entire planet with them. The last Devourer ship, crippled and powerless, began broadcasting surrender terms. Marcus ignored them, focusing instead on the planet below. Captain Rodriguez, I'm sending down medical teams and engineers. Let's help these people rebuild. Elena nodded, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Understood, Admiral. It's good to see you, sir. The pleasure is mine. Captain, you started this fight with one ship and the courage of 200. That's the most human thing I've ever seen. Earth is proud of you. As the fleet began recovery operations and the Kree emerged from their shelters to see the sky clear of enemy vessels, Elena sat back in her command chair. They had answered an SOS from across the galaxy. They had faced impossible odds and survived. But more than that, they had shown the universe something important. Humanity wasn't just another species reaching for the stars. They were Deathworlders, forged in the harshest crucible imaginable, and they had decided to use their strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The message was spreading across the galaxy already, transmitted on every frequency by witnesses to the battle. Earth had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. 3 weeks after the battle, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in what had once been a bombed-out section of the Kree capital city. Now it was a construction site buzzing with activity as human engineers worked alongside Kree citizens to rebuild. The sound of welding torches and heavy machinery filled the air, a symphony of renewal. Counselor Vane approached her, moving with far more confidence than when they had first met. The injuries on his face had healed, replaced by the blue-tinged scars that the Kree wore as marks of survival. Behind him walked a group of Kree children, their large eyes watching the human workers with fascination. "Captain Rodriguez, I wanted to thank you again," Vane said, his English now fluent after weeks of constant interaction with humans. "Without your intervention, my people would be extinct. The collective would have stripped our world bare and moved on to their next target." Elena smiled, kneeling down to be at eye level with the children. One brave youngster stepped forward, reaching out to touch her hand with gentle curiosity. "We just answered your call, Counselor. Any decent species would have done the same." "That's where you're wrong," Vane replied softly. "We sent that distress signal to 17 different spacefaring civilizations. Earth was the only one that responded. The others either ignored it or sent messages saying involvement would violate their non-interference protocols. You traveled 1,200 light-years to save strangers, knowing you might die in the attempt. That's not just decent, Captain. That's extraordinary." The words settled over Elena like a weight. She thought about all the species out there watching from a distance, calculating risk versus reward, choosing safety over compassion. Then she thought about the volunteers on those retrofitted cargo ships, mechanics and teachers and farmers who had grabbed whatever weapons they could find and jumped across the galaxy because someone needed help. "Maybe we're just too stupid to know better," Elena said with a wry smile. "Humans have this unfortunate habit of running toward danger instead of away from it." "Deathworlder instinct," Vane said, using the term with newfound respect. "We've been studying your planet's history, trying to understand what created your species. Captain, your world terrifies us. The predators, the diseases, the natural disasters, the sheer violence of your environment, the fact that you not only survived but thrived there, explains so much about your people's character." One of the human engineers, a woman named Patricia Chen, walked over carrying a data tablet. She was covered in dust and grease, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun, but her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Captain, we finished the analysis on the Devourer technology we salvaged. You need to see this." They walked to a secured facility where Earth's scientists had set up a temporary research station. Inside, pieces of Devourer technology lay scattered across examination tables, each one tagged and cataloged. Dr. Marcus Thompson, head of the research team, looked up from a holographic display showing complex biological scans. "Captain, this is disturbing," Marcus said without preamble. "The Devourers aren't just cybernetically enhanced, they're victims. Every single one we examined used to be a different species. They were forcibly converted, their bodies modified, and their minds enslaved by some kind of central intelligence." Elena felt her blood run cold. "Are you saying the Devourers are slaves?" "Worse than slaves. They're tools. We found evidence of at least 40 different alien species incorporated into their collective. Some of them were peaceful, like the Kree. Others were warriors from different worlds. The process strips away their individuality and turns them into extensions of a hive mind." "Captain, the collective isn't just a threat to one planet. They're systematically converting entire civilizations." Vane had followed them inside, and his face went pale at the revelation. The Devourers who attacked us. They were once people? Like us? Some of them probably were Kreenai, Marcus said gently. They take captives, convert them, and send them back to attack their own homeworlds. It's psychological warfare combined with forced assimilation. They're not just conquering. They're erasing species entirely. Elena turned to the viewport, looking out at the damaged city being rebuilt. The implications were staggering. They hadn't just fought off raiders or pirates. They had encountered something far more sinister, a cancer spreading through the galaxy, consuming civilizations and turning them into weapons against others. "Where is the hive intelligence located?" Elena asked. "There has to be a central control somewhere." "We're working on it. The captured ships had fragments of navigational data. We've identified a possible location about 3,000 light-years from here, in a region of space that most civilizations avoid due to heavy radiation and unstable stars. It's the perfect hiding spot." "Then we need to take the fight to them," Elena said firmly. "If we don't, they'll just rebuild and come back. Not just here, but everywhere. How many other civilizations are suffering because no one will stand up to these monsters?" Admiral Webb's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Rodriguez, I need you on the Indomitable. We have visitors." Elena made her way to the flagship, curious about who would be visiting a battlefield light years from any major civilization. When she arrived at the observation deck, she understood. The space around the Kreenai homeworld was filling with ships, not human vessels, but alien ones of a dozen different designs. A holographic display showed their transponder signals. The Valorian Empire, the Nexus Federation, the Zephyr Concordat, and more. These were some of the same civilizations that had ignored the Kreenai distress call. Now they had come, drawn by reports of the battle and Earth's victory. Admiral Webb stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "They started arriving 2 days ago. Every one of them wants to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. They're calling us heroes, saviors of the Kreenai. Some are offering trade agreements, others military alliances." "And where were they when the Kreenai were dying?" Elena asked coldly. "Exactly what I said. But politics is politics, Captain. The Council wants me to be diplomatic. These species are old, established, with technology and resources that could help humanity advance decades or even centuries." A Kreenai aide approached nervously. "Sirs, the delegations are asking for a meeting. They wish to formally thank Earth for its intervention and discuss future cooperation." Webb looked at Elena. "You led the initial response. You should be there. But I'll understand if you'd rather not shake hands with people who left the Kreenai to die." Elena considered it. Every instinct told her to tell these fair-weather allies exactly what she thought of their non-interference protocols and calculated cowardice. But she was also a soldier, and soldiers understood the long game. "I'll attend," she said finally. "But on our terms. They come to us, not the other way around." The meeting was held aboard the Vanguard, a deliberate choice. The ship still bore scars from the battle, hull plating torn and scorched, a monument to what real courage looked like. The alien delegations were escorted through the damaged corridors to a conference room where Elena and Admiral Webb waited. The representatives were an impressive collection. The Valorians were tall and elegant, with crystalline skin that reflected light in prismatic patterns. The Nexus ambassador was a floating collection of energy that communicated through harmonics. The Zephyr Concordat sent a four-armed warrior whose species was known throughout the galaxy for their martial prowess. "Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Webb, on behalf of the Valorian Empire, I wish to express our profound admiration for Earth's actions," the Valorian ambassador began, its voice melodious. "Your courage in facing the Devourer threat has inspired the entire galaxy. We would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." "Where were you 3 weeks ago?" Elena asked bluntly, cutting through the diplomatic pleasantries. The Kreni sent you the same distress call they sent us. We found the transmission logs. You received it, analyzed it, and decided it wasn't worth responding to. The room fell silent. The ambassadors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Finally, the Zephyr warrior spoke, its voice rough but honest. Captain, you must understand. The Devourers have destroyed hundreds of worlds. Every species that has fought them has lost. The few survivors who escaped tell stories of massive fleets, weapons that can crack planets, and conversion technology that turns your own people into enemies. We thought the Kreni were doomed, and involving ourselves would only add our worlds to the list of victims. So, you did nothing, Elena said, her voice hard. You let an entire civilization face extinction because the risk was too high. Then when we succeeded against impossible odds, suddenly you all want to be friends. The Nexus ambassador's energy field pulsed with what might have been shame. You are correct, Captain. Our inaction was dishonorable. But please understand, you are Deathworlders. Your species evolved in conditions that would kill most of us within hours. Your capacity for violence, your tolerance for risk, your refusal to acknowledge impossible odds. These traits are unique to species from the most hostile worlds. We are not cowards, but neither are we suicidal. Admiral Webb leaned forward. And yet here we are, one young species that's barely left its own solar system, showing the entire galaxy what it means to have courage. Do you know what that tells me? It tells me that maybe the galaxy needs Deathworlders more than it wants to admit. The Valorian ambassador's crystalline surface seemed to darken with thought. Admiral Captain, we come with more than just diplomatic pleasantries. Our intelligence services have been monitoring the Devourer Collective for centuries. We know where their primary hive is located. We know their fleet strength and their expansion patterns. We have the information, but not the will to act on it. Perhaps you do. Elena and Webb exchanged glances. This was the opening they needed. Tell us everything, Elena said. Over the next hour, the alien ambassadors shared intelligence that humanity had no way of gathering on its own. The Devourer Collective controlled a network of worlds spanning thousands of light years. Their hive intelligence resided in a massive organic mechanical construct called the Core, protected by layers of defensive systems and entire fleets of converted species. They had existed for at least 10,000 years, slowly spreading across the galaxy like a plague. But there was more. The ambassadors revealed that many civilizations had faced the Devourers and lost. Dozens of species had been completely assimilated, their cultures erased, their people transformed into mindless drones. The only survivors were those who had fled before the collective arrived, abandoning their homeworlds to save a remnant of their species. The galaxy has lived in fear of the collective for millennia, the Nexus ambassador explained. Those who resist are destroyed. Those who hide survive by remaining beneath their notice. When the Kreni were discovered, we knew what would happen. We have seen it countless times before. Until humanity showed up and refused to accept that outcome, Webb said. We didn't know we were supposed to lose, so we won instead. The Zephyr warrior made a sound that might have been a laugh. Deathworlder logic. Ignore the obvious facts, attempt the impossible, succeed through sheer stubborn refusal to die. It is inspiring and terrifying in equal measure. We need allies, Elena said, shifting the conversation. If we're going to take the fight to the collective, one fleet isn't enough. Will you help us, or will you continue hiding while they consume the galaxy piece by piece? The silence stretched. These species had avoided conflict with the Devourers for generations, choosing safety over confrontation. Asking them to suddenly reverse course was asking them to bet their civilizations on a species they had just met. The Valorian ambassador was the first to speak. The Empire will provide intelligence and logistical support. We cannot commit our fleets to direct combat, but we can supply resources, safe havens, and technical expertise. The Nexus ambassador pulsed with agreement. The Federation will share our advanced sensor technology and help coordinate communications between multiple fleets. We excel at information warfare. The Zephyr warrior stood, towering over the table. The Concordat will send warriors. If Deathworlders are willing to fight, then we would be cowards not to join them. Our martial tradition demands we face strong enemies, not hide from them. One by one, the other ambassadors pledged support. Some offered resources, others technology, a few promised ships and crews. It wasn't everything humanity needed, but it was a start. The galaxy was finally beginning to wake up. As the meeting concluded and the ambassadors departed, Counselor Vane approached Elena privately. "Captain, my people wish to help as well. We have no weapons, no warships, but we have something else. We are experts in biological sciences. If the Devourers use forced conversion, perhaps we can find a way to reverse it." Elena looked at the gentle alien who had sent a desperate message into the void, hoping someone would care enough to answer. His people had been through hell, their world devastated, millions dead. And now, instead of retreating into recovery, they wanted to help free others from the same fate. "The galaxy doesn't deserve you, Counselor," Elena said softly, "but we'll fight like hell to make sure it's worthy of you someday." 6 months later, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen assembled in deep space. At its core were human warships, crude and deadly, piloted by volunteers from Earth and its colonies. Surrounding them were vessels from the Zephyr Concordat, warriors eager to prove themselves. Nexus energy ships wove through the formation, their sensors mapping every detail of surrounding space. And scattered throughout were ships from a dozen other species, each contributing what they could to the cause. On the bridge of the Vanguard, now fully repaired and upgraded with alien technology, Elena looked at the fleet composition on her tactical display. 200 ships, crews representing 15 different species, all unified by a single purpose, ending the Devourer Collective's reign of terror. Admiral Webb's face appeared on the communication screen. "Captain, all ships report ready. The Kree-Nye researchers transmitted their findings an hour ago. If their theory is correct, we can sever the Corps' control over the converted drones. We could potentially free millions of enslaved beings." "And if the theory is wrong," Elena asked, "then we fight our way to the Corps and destroy it the old-fashioned way. Either way, this ends today." Elena looked at her crew, seeing the same determination she had seen the day they answered the first distress call. They had started this journey as representatives of a single planet, unknown and untested. Now they were leaders of a coalition, proof that courage could be contagious. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez," Elena said, her voice carrying across every vessel in the fleet. 6 months ago, we received a message from people we had never met. They were dying, and they asked for help. We answered because that's what you do when someone is suffering. Today, we're going to free millions of people from slavery. We're going to show the galaxy that evil can be fought, that tyranny can be defeated, and that no one has to face monsters alone anymore. The Devourer Collective has existed for 10,000 years. Let's make sure it doesn't see year 10,001. The fleet jumped as one, tearing through space toward the core. Behind them, across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited, hoping that the Deathworlders from Earth could accomplish the impossible one more time. And somewhere in the cold void between stars, species that had lived in fear for millennia began to feel something they had forgotten: hope. Because Earth had answered an SOS, and in doing so, had reminded the galaxy what it meant to be brave.